All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here continuing with our conversation with King F.A.M.E, North Carolina's finest. He is a A&R. He's a producer. He has had appearances on TV, and you name the network, he's been there. Fox, NBC. He's been Gucci Mane's tour manager, and also been an associate producer for the Dame Dash show. F.A.M.E, I appreciate all the nuggets, all the wisdom that you're dropping for the listeners, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about getting it back to you, right? As a performer, as an entertainer, as an artist. And I was curious if you could talk to us a little bit about one of your first mixtapes that really helped deliver the buzz for you. I'm just curious, what was the process for Ground Zero? What was that like? What was going on at that time? What was the vibe or the splash that you were trying to make with that mixtape?
Yo, it's funny, man, because I'm not gonna lie. The fact that you knew that was the tape, like, let me tell you something. We didn't have as much social media presence at that time as we do now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was about creating a real buzz actually in the streets. So it was crazy, man, because I had a single on there produced by a guy named Magneto 7. Just a little background on Magneto 7. He's from a city called Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He ended up winning a Grammy for Eminem's Recovery album.
Okay.
He was one of the first producers I worked with in the city. And we were producing some music. We had a song called Shake It to the Flow. That's the same song I was telling you about that the radio called me for. So that song is buzzing. I was working at a clothing store at the time. So anybody that would walk in the store, my music was playing.
Nice.
So they would come in and be like, yo, who's this? And I'd be like, oh, that's me. First they say, that ain't you. You feel me? And I'd be like, oh, had a CD. So one of my best friends at the time, he was selling mixtapes in the street, like a bootlegger.
Okay.
But he wasn't just a bootlegger. At that time, he was dealing directly with a lot of the DJs, DJ Clue, DJ Envy. A lot of these DJs getting the actual mixtapes directly from the DJs and buying them wholesale.
Okay.
So in the mix at the same time, he was like, yo, if y'all get 2 of these, I'll give you this one on a discount, which was my tape. So they didn't know, like, we be in here negotiating these deals and selling tapes out of the store. And a lot of these people didn't even know that the tape they were buying was me.
Okay.
You feel me?
Sly.
So, man, we ended up selling probably 1,000 to 1,200 units of that tape hand to hand.
Damn.
Like,
and I just wanted to pause you there because, as you mentioned, for all the millennials that listen, some people that are a bit younger, without the internet, right? This is pre-internet, right? And so, as you mentioned, it was guerrilla style, street style marketing. Like, it wasn't a download. Your download was actually walking up to someone and giving them that tape and building that connection. So the way you grew your fan base was really authentic, really organic, right? So I just wanted to kind of put that out there into the universe, that it wasn't as easy as it is now, right? So there was a lot of sweat equity put into you doing that. So that's amazing. 1,000+ units. That's dope.
And I'm gonna tell you something. It's crazy because, I always was like, until I learned the industry completely, I was like scared to sign a deal.
Right.
So I was getting courted by labels. It wasn't that people weren't starting to take interest. At that time, people were starting to take interest. And it's funny because, one of the people I'm going to mention, and this is why I always say, too, take advantage of your opportunities and don't basically piss anything off. And I'm going to explain that to you. But at that time, I was getting personally told that I could solicit music to Atlantic Records. Deani Harper, who was the project manager at Atlantic Records at the time, I was sending her music. It was another dude, a producer from Trill Entertainment, that was Bootsy's label.
Mm-hmm.
That Bootsy was on. They were interested in me, but I told everybody, because I had artists at that time. Mm. I was like, yo, all I want is distribution.
Right.
And I'm going to get to the distribution punchline soon. You feel me? Because I have that now.
Right.
And so I'm gonna tell you with who and all of that in a minute, but I want to make sure I stay on track as far as I don't piss off opportunities. So at that time, Ninth Wonder is from Winston-Salem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so hot in the city. His mom is like, "Yo, you need to like really check this kid out." Ski Beats that produced Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt, Ninth Wonder, both of them from Winston-Salem. Both I've been in the studio with Ski, working on a record of mine that was going to be for my album that I still haven't released yet. And I was at Ninth Wonder Mama house, standing outside talking to him at the same time that he had just produced Threats for Jay-Z for the Black album, and Jay-Z's getting ready to go to Def Jam.
Wow.
But because, you know, of how I handled the situation, being young, being from the streets, not trusting people, having PTSD, all of these different issues at the time, I didn't know how to build on the relationship with Ninth Wonder. And I talked to him recently about that. I saw him, and me and him talked, and I let him know, like, look, bro, you know, I didn't really know how to take things at that time. And I had a lot of anger with me, and I took it out on a lot of people that, you know, I don't want to kind of say I dropped the ball, but, you know, the producer I was working with, because of, you know, I was really oblivious to politics, this, that, and the third. I don't know if Mike just, because he was looking at me as his artist, just didn't want to give me my music to take the Ninth Wonder.
Right.
So Ninth Wonder told me, yo, I'm coming to the store to see you when I come back for Christmas. Have your music ready. The producer never gave me my music. So now Ninth is looking at me like,
you're like a clown.
You're
not taking this seriously.
You feel what I'm saying? And then everybody that knew me knew that was the farthest from the truth.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah. I've been in that position. I mean, tonight's all about you. I've been in that position, and it's it hurts. It hurts when others get in the way and kind of block your blessings, right? And maybe ruin a good opportunity, right? So I've experienced that in my past as well. So it's good that you're able to at least reason with him and you know, still work towards something maybe in the future, right? It's good that
and that's what I told him.
That bridge wasn't burned, right? It was maybe not completed at that time. So that's a positive, as opposed to burning the bridge completely. And then when you see him, you got to duck or look the other way like you never saw him, because you know that there's tension or bad blood, right? So that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I love hearing those stories. Being a big fan of hip hop, going to the record stores myself, buying my cassettes and CDs and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate the hustle at that time in terms of what you had to do. I know then you moved on to Rise to Fame, to another big mixtape, and I know that. Mixtapes, I think, kind of get a bit of a label as being almost like a throwaway type of thing. But again, I'm wondering if you could talk to us about some of the elements that came together for Rise to Fame. Like, what was the impetus behind creating that project, and how come it blew up to be so big?
You know, this is the first time that I've really told this story in depth on camera.
Okay,
but,
exclusive.
At that time, I was like, this. It was like an all original project, so all the music on that project was original. There was a guy that I had met, and it's gonna come full circle. It's gonna be funny and it's crazy, like, you know how like life just has its own way of working itself out. Right. So there was a producer I met on the internet. I don't even know how I found him, honestly. We still laugh about it to this day because I really don't know how we connected fully. But I just knew, like you said, identifying talent, that he had the it factor. Okay. So I was like, yo, I want to work with this guy. He was still up and coming, so he was pretty much taking whatever I could afford to give him. I'm giving him $200-$300 a beat. I bought 2 beats one time, and he threw me a free one. And the guy goes by the name of Jay White did it. So this guy, at the time, it was 2010, 2011, we first started working together. He ends up producing 3 or 4 of the tracks on my Rise to Fame project. That project gets a great response as bloggers out of the area. Like they nominated it to one of the top 8 projects out of North and South Carolina.
Yeah, that's huge. And I just pause real quick. I did like a quick Google search in terms of the population of North Carolina. So I believe you guys might be I think the 9th biggest state. You have around 10 million people. So that's not exactly a small time accomplishment. So kudos to you.
I appreciate it. And it's funny because the guy that I started working with, Jay White, did it, ends up in 2016 or maybe 2018, I forget when it came out, but ends up producing Bodak Yellow for Cardi B and becomes one of the biggest producers in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, just for our paths to have been aligned like that, I always say like the universe has a way of writing your story for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he did a couple of records on there that was super dope. I still got a song that I never fully put out. I'm shooting a video too that he produced. That's super dope. But it was like we were ahead of our time because his sound wasn't what the industry was doing. But now those beats sound like today because his sound is running the industry. He still produces for Gucci Mane. He did Very Freaky Girl, the remix with Mulatto.
Okay.
He did I just did a couple of joints on Fujiato's new project. He did Savage. He's nominated for another Grammy for doing Savage for Beyonce and Meg Thee Stallion. So, you know, just seeing the trajectory in his career and how we met and how he was such an integral part of that project. You got to think that was 25-30% of my project.
Right, right.
You feel me? So for him to be such an integral part of my project at the time and us to have that rapport, you know, and to see who he's become, it's like, it's crazy just watching the trajectory that he has. I can't take credit for his career. He's a hard worker. He made sacrifices and put himself in positions to be who he is. But I can say that I'm honored to have, you know, been a part of his story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing when there's that kind of rub off, right? And I know that you I believe also talked I can't remember the interview now, but you did mention that in terms of relationships and yourself, like a lot of other artists that we've had on the Music is Everything podcast talk a lot about network and relationships and building your network, right? And staying aligned with people and things of that nature, right? Because if I, you know, kind of summarizing, but you were kind of like, people are wondering, hey, how do you know this guy over here? And you're like, no, but like, I knew this guy from like 5-7 years ago when we were both just working together, feeding each other opportunities. And I think that people, as you mentioned before, they kind of just look at the finish line and think maybe he just rolled out of bed and just ran into Cardi B at the mall, threw her USB key, and she's like, that's what I want. Tomorrow we meet up and do it. It's like, no, it's not really like that, right? You've got to put together all those steps before you get there. So I think it's an amazing reminder. And yeah, congrats to you both, right? To see that rub off was so impactful for both of you.
The song that I'm telling you about that I never really kind of put out all the way as far as video wise, it actually, when I was working with Dame Dash, he had a movie out at the time called Honor Up. And I don't know if you've seen the marketing stuff behind it. Kanye executive produced the movie, but it was called Honor Up, and we did 2 unofficial soundtracks. It was like a dual mixtape. The Honor Up mixtape, it was like a part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
And that song that I did with Jay White did it is actually on Dame Dash's Honor Up soundtrack for that movie.
What's the name of the track? I'm gonna go listen to it.
It's called Go to Work.
Go to Work? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that project was on that PIF. That Honor Up project is on that PIF.
Okay. Well, we know what that PIF is.
Yeah.
That's where you're getting all them other joints that they ain't putting on all the other platforms, right? So that PIF was in that early 2000s, mid to late 2000s. That was the spot you had to go to get the stuff that you really wanted to hear, the street stuff, the not so mainstream stuff. So I'm familiar with that PIF, absolutely. So I'm wondering, you know, now, you know what I mean? You've done so many different things in terms of TV production, A&Ring, managing. You're an entity within yourself. I guess I'm curious, like, what do you still want to accomplish? I guess as maybe a manager or maybe as uh, a producer. What do you want to accomplish still?
Dominating Billboard. Like
Nice.
that's my next. That's the only thing I have my eye on right now because I've pretty much done everything you can do on a street level.
Mm-hmm.
Know what I mean? I've pretty much done everything you can do on the street level. Like my thing is now we're opening a studio out here in the next 2 weeks. And as a songwriter, producer, I'm getting ready to really lock in and submit tracks to everybody.
Okay.
Everybody that I've built relationships with over the years, everybody has been waiting on stuff from me. Know what I mean? Records, you know what I mean, for artists that I know that are coming up now because I have relationships with certain people that run the labels now. Like
Mm-hmm.
my thing is I want to dominate Billboard for the next 5 years.
Right. Nice. And I'm curious. Don't want to put you in a tough spot, but I think you're savvy enough to work your way around this one. I guess which artists are you most excited about in terms of their maybe their trajectory or their next release? Is there someone that you're like really really excited about just based on where they've come from or how you've been working together?
Honestly, man, it's really all of them because I don't put my art, like none of my artists are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like we deliberately do that. So I'm working with an artist, Red Dread, right now that has a single out with Bootsy Badass, Call You Owe Me. But he also has a song coming out with an Empire executive by the name of Waleed Coyote that manages DJ Luke Nasty.
Okay.
So they have a record getting ready to come out called Enough Is Enough that Luke Nasty produced that's gonna be a pretty big deal. And to mention that, I suppose I wasn't gonna do anything until I got distribution. That's why it took me a little longer than the average person because I didn't take some of these deals, but I'm also distributed through Empire.
Right.
And they have Money Man and Busta Rhymes and a bunch of other people. So I got another artist I'm working with named Huey Hoffa. I'm really excited about what he's doing because he has a song with Big Molly from South Coast Music Group. That's the same label that the baby signed to.
Okay.
So they just released a project on her. And he has a song with DJ Luke Nasty that he's getting ready to put out with Luke Nasty featured on it that I'm excited about. And we're getting ready to do some stuff with an artist named Mr. Swipey that's tied in with Fabio Foreign out of New York. So I'm excited about the stuff he has going on. We got a Haitian kid, Big Zoe, that is just different. You feel what I mean? And he's more of a melodic artist. He does a lot of melodic music. And I'm excited about what he's doing. So I got a Afrobeats artist, Reem Dollar from Belize, that just did a song with Obasi Jackson, who's Pop Smoke's brother.
Okay.
Know what I mean? Obasi's starting to, do major things in his network. He was just a Sprite artist. Been going viral lately because of his relationship. I mean, of course, his relationship with his brother and everybody really finding out who he is now and getting exposed to his brand.
Right.
And so I'm excited about everything that's happening right now. I'm in a very good space, and I'm excited about all the artists because they're all doing what they need to do in their own right.
Right.
That
Right.
same artist, Red Dread, I'm telling you about, just dropped a drill record with an Australian producer. So like when that record starts streaming, when we drop the link and it starts streaming and Australia gets hold of it, the sky's the limit for what can happen internationally.
Right. Absolutely. No, it sounds like there's a lot of momentum and it sounds like there's a lot of traction and it does sound like you're in a really good spot. And just having talked with Black Spinese about you and then getting a sense of how you are on the podcast, I definitely you mentioned earlier that sports element to you being like super competitive. Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's part of the backbone of what's driving everything, right? You have like a lot of traction, a lot of momentum. So again, big up and respect for that. Yeah. And
And just so you know, man, I want to tell you, bro, I've been following Toronto culture since Cardinal Official. You
okay.
feel me? So like
Bam, 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 bam.
I didn't just like start paying attention when Drake popped. Like there's a lot of people don't really understand like the vibe that Toronto has musically. Like Belly's one of my favorite artists.
Mm-hmm.
Like period. Like ever. Like he's one of my favorite artists ever. Like the stuff that The Weeknd was doing with Drake. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like The Weeknd's like Toronto has its own vibe. You feel me? And I know that you would look at like Cardinal Official or Justin Bieber, even though Justin's young, is kind of like pioneers of Toronto because those were some of the first Toronto artists that people really started to pay attention to. And then Drake kind of like blew the doors off the hinges as far as, but look what Tory Lanez is doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have a really, in some ways, unheralded, but lineage of artists, right? We've got the Godfather, Maestro Fresh West, who really, had his first hit on AM radio, right? Back when I was in high school, right? We didn't even have a dedicated Black radio station. That's only been probably the last 20 years, actually, in the six in Toronto. T-Dot is what we call it for the older heads, the OGs. And yeah, so, again, when you talk about getting your mixtape out there and putting it into the hands of people, I mean, this is the way in which hip hop culture was spread, particularly even in Toronto. The scene here was a lot of radio stations, college radio stations, were really integral in spreading the love of hip hop culture to the masses. You had to listen Friday nights to a Master Plan show, right? On Tuesdays, you had to listen to CIUT, which is University of Toronto radio station, right? On Saturday afternoons, right? You'd have to listen to a show between 1 and 4. And it's like, if you miss those shows, it's like, your belly is empty from hip hop for a whole week because we didn't have a hit radio station where we just play the top songs over and over and over again every hour on the hour, right? So I respect the hustle, right? Because it wasn't accessible to everybody. And I respect the fans, particularly the fans of hip hop in the early years, because if you were a fan, you had to go out and seek what you wanted to enjoy. It wasn't just, let me go on my Spotify, go on my thing. And it's cool, like that's what it is now. But there's a bit of a different reverence for the artists and producers, the tastemakers, the DJs, the promoters, because there was a little bit more sweat equity that they had to put in, you know what I mean, to get themselves out there. So I really respect that.
Yep. I appreciate
it. So, I mean, you've definitely dropped a lot of nuggets. We're kind of winding down to our last segment. I don't think I'm going to catch you off guard on this. You seem pretty quick on your toes. But before we jump to that next section, I'm just curious, like, you've dropped a lot of gems, a lot of knowledge, but what would be some other words of advice that you would give to other creatives? I mean, you yourself have done a lot of different roles. But yeah, I'm wondering if someone wanted to get into A&Ring or producing or even just being an artist. I mean, what would be something that you would share with them that you feel would really help launch them into a good space?
The main thing is don't worry about what anybody else is doing. A lot of times people come into the industry and they see somebody else that's gaining success and they try to pattern themselves after that person almost to the point of being a carbon copy.
Right.
Like, be the best version of you because someone's going to love it. It's 7 billion plus people out here. And you don't have to remember who you are if you're just always being yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an image to maintain. You don't have to do any of that. Like, if you're just always you, it's easy to maintain that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think self-awareness and just, yeah, like you said, just being yourself it's golden. I think it's golden. It's unbeatable, right? No, I appreciate that. So we're gonna get into this next section. I call it rapid fire, and it's just a fun section that I like to do. It's kind of like asking you a question within reason. Kind of give me a one-word response. I don't want you to dwell on it. Don't want you to overthink anything. Just drop it on us. So I'll hit you with the first question. What's your favorite food?
Chicken. Fried chicken.
Fried chicken? Okay. Are you a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks guy?
Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme. Okay. If you could promote an event for one artist, who would it be?
Drake.
Drake. Okay. Your favorite music artist of all time?
Michael Jackson.
What's a top attraction? So say someone like me from the Six comes down there. What's a top attraction that I need to see in North Carolina?
It's longer than one answer, but
That's
because
okay. Yeah.
one question, word, but because it's a black-owned business, and I know these people personally, they some friends of mine have a selfie museum in Greensboro,
A
and people
selfie
are coming
museum?
from all over the place. Every room is basically designed to take the best selfies.
Oh wow, that's dope. You got to flip me the name of that. That sounds dope. Tell us, so the listeners can.
It's called Rich Girls Museum in Greensboro, North Carolina. It's my man, not the Jay White, did it, the producer. It's a guy named Jay White out of Greensboro. That's from Greensboro. Him and his fiance have opened this selfie museum called Rich Girls.
That's dope. I never even heard of that. That's really dope. Thank you for sharing that. Because I've peeped your Instagram and I see you posing up in front of a lot of different cars. I'm curious, what's your favorite car?
Lamborghini.
Okay, which I'm actually a car guy myself. There's different versions of Lamborghinis, correct?
I grew up on the Countach.
Okay, I was gonna say that's the only one I know.
But the Jeep, I'm going to get me a Lamborghini Jeep. Like, it's going to happen.
Damn. Okay.
It's going to happen.
All right, I like that. Which color? I seen you in front of was it
It's gonna
orange?
be most likely it's gonna be the I like the burnt orange, but most likely it's gonna be black and probably black with white trim or black with red trim or something like that. Black with the white interior or something.
Okay, okay. All right, all right. I like it. I like it. Uh, have you invested in your craft with any new gear lately? Any new toys that you've kind of added to the studio or whatever that you're just
But the studio pretty much has everything in it. Like, we're still like getting the booths redesigned, but we got Raven boards, live drum kits, guitars, piano's gonna be in there. Like, it's gonna be a live sound room. We're gonna be able to produce pretty much anything out of that studio.
Damn, that's awesome. That's awesome. Uh, well, listen, Fame, I so appreciate you coming on the podcast, sharing with us your experience, the projects that you're working on, what you're doing on, seeing your grind, seeing your hustle, I think is very inspiring. And I'm really appreciative that you're able to come on the podcast. I like it when artists, people from the industry, from the event world, hospitality, can share things about themselves. And why I was just really excited to have you on is just because there's so many other layers to who you are, right? I know there's a bunch of other things we didn't even get a chance to touch on. Would definitely love to have you back on again in the future. But I appreciate you sharing the knowledge and sharing, your rise, right? I think there's a lot of other artists that could really learn a lot from your example. So I'm grateful that you came on today.
I appreciate you having me, man. It was very informative. Like, you did the research and you asked the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
You
Thank
know
you,
what I
sir.
mean? Like, when you ask the right questions, it's easy to get the right answer.
Appreciate you. I'm gonna get to your social media handles. I have two last questions. So where can people find you? I mean, how can more people see what you're doing, get behind the artists that you're promoting? Where can people find you on social media?
I am King Fame, everything. Everything is I am King Fame on
Okay,
everything. And on Facebook, it's King Fame. So
perfect. And then just ending off on final thoughts. Anything else you want to share with our listeners? Anything else you wanted to touch on and elaborate a little bit more? Just final parting words. Could be about anything that we talked about, or even if you want to introduce something different.
no, I just really want the people of Toronto to know that I really have a respect for the culture out there. I know it's more diverse than meets the eye, especially with a lot of Caribbean influence. And I'm looking forward to coming out there, and I'm just appreciative for being able to do this podcast. And like I said, I'm also a fan of the culture.
Awesome. Awesome. That you are. That you are. Well, listen, my man, appreciate you again. Continued success, continued blessings. I'm definitely going to stay in touch with you, and I definitely look forward to seeing what you're up to and collaborating again in the future.
Definitely, and I appreciate you having me.
All right, F.A.M.E. Appreciate you.
All right, no problem.